And it's from a lack of understanding. They didn't understand the products that we were trading, they didn't understand the impact that they would have on the organisation, and they certainly didn't understand the risk.
It is appalling to see that people in the business world, not only financial world, don't learn or don't want to learn from the mistakes made, maybe not by them, but by their predecessors.
So, for the next 45 minutes, you can all listen to Nick Leeson.
Trust isn't enough. You need systems and you need people in place who are able to challenge. And challenge is a key theme for me. You know, I was never challenged. I wasn't challenged throughout the 3 years that I was at Barings in Singapore, and I certainly wasn't challenged intelligently by somebody who had the information or knowledge to be able to do so. Towards the end of 1994, the Singapore International Monetary Exchange were very concerned about the level of trading that we were doing, the size of the position, the overhang that had on the market, and the risk that we were taking based on the capital base of the bank. So they wrote a letter to James Bax, who was the Chief Executive Officer of Barings in Singapore. James had no experience of futures and options. So he gave the letter to Simon Jones, who was the CIO of the whole settlements department in Singapore at the time. He also had no experience of futures and options. So eventually Simon gave the letter to me to answer the concerns about my illegal trading account. So if you don't have the understanding or the knowledge to be able to challenge what's going on, you shouldn't be in those positions, you shouldn't be trading those markets.
But to be effective, there are many pieces to the puzzle that have to be in place. Who has the authority to make decisions? At what level does that authority stop? And when does a decision need to be escalated to another level of the organization? And it also gets into not only defining roles, responsibilities, and authority, but also management's appetite for risk. How much risk is management willing to accept? And how do they think about the trade-offs of risks? Lastly, I mentioned two building blocks, something that we identified in Aegon we call the economic framework, which is really an entirely new foundation to provide one system, one framework in measuring value and pricing risk within the organization. So I'm going to focus a bit more on the next slides about the importance of that balance and why it's critical. Because without it, we don't believe you can have proper risk management. And also, we think it actually creates a better opportunity, for the organization to grow profitably and responsibly.
It is quite a broad program. We've chosen the more common definition in the financial service industry, which outlines that the causes of operational events are inadequate or failing processes, people, systems, or external events. We ended up with these 8 risk types as outlined here. Probably good to highlight that business risk was taken into account, as well as financial reporting risk. So for some people refer to that as SOX type of risks. While operational risk events can happen in every part of the company or of the group in the end of the day. So we have tools in the program that reach out to significant numbers of people. One of the key tools here is that maybe a lot of you are familiar with our risk self-assessments. And here the idea is that larger groups of people discuss risks against their objectives. And what is important here that those people are at a peer level and you have an appropriate mix of people who are by profession more control-based and who are by profession more performance-based. So you end up at the balanced result and not at one of the extremes as outlined in these pictures, when everything becomes control-based or everything gets performance-based.
The next speaker, I don't really have to introduce him because I'm absolutely sure that everybody knows him here in this hall, is Onno Ruding.
Trust is quite important. It has always been, but sometimes, certain times of crisis, people are more aware of it, of the importance, than in easier times. And it is, one needs, if the society functions properly, it's never perfectly, but properly, one needs trust in individuals, in business or otherwise, whatever you do. But one needs more also in institutions, be it banks or other companies, in markets, now that's certainly related, and in governments or central banks and public sector institutions. Because if in one of the four you have, whatever you do, you have entirely insufficient trust, even when the rest seems okay, the whole system doesn't function, and you yourself are feel uncertain or displeased or whatever. If one behaves well, it serves your financial economic interest of your company, and there are many examples, and therefore it serves also the shareholders ultimately well.